Halloween, I was watching an Adam the Woo video about the destruction of the Columbia Ranch, and he mentioned that the fountain from Friends was also in Hocus Pocus. And I thought that was pretty neat. I had never heard that, but after he mentioned it, I saw it on Twitter. I've seen it on Facebook. So a lot of people have been sharing this bit of trivia. It kind of made the round. That fountain has appeared in a ton of other shows. It appeared in the middle so often that they actually did a parody of the Friends intro with it. I remember first seeing it in an episode of Dennis the Menace. In this episode, Mr. Wilson, the crotchety old man next door, is trying to get Dennis away from him. And Dennis wants a coin to throw in the fountain. So he just gives him a coin. He's like, take this and take off, Dennis. So Dennis leaves, takes this coin, puts it in the fountain. Next thing you know, Mr. Wilson realizes his expensive, valuable coin is missing. It's a $250 coin back in 1950s era. So this was as valuable of a coin as you could get. And Dennis has flicked it into the fountain. So they go wading in the fountain. It's a very memorable moment. Wonderful episode. I found out a lot about this fountain from ColumbiaRanch.net. What they said about the fountain was that it was built all the way back in 1938, but originally looked very different. So originally it had almost like a regular pedestal, like the current one has those fish that jut out and kind of look a little bit like the dolphin on the top of the Swan and Dolphin Hotel at Disney. In between, it also had a version where there were a bunch of cherubs around it. But the version we're used to didn't appear until 20 years later. So 1958 is the first time that we saw that version in film. It was in a movie called Senior Prom. This starred a young lady named Jill Corey. But this was one of those movies. They did a lot of these in the 50s where it'd be like they'd just get a bunch of musical acts and stars, and it would really just almost be like watching MTV for an hour and a half. And in this one, they got Louis Prima. They had a special appearance by Ed Sullivan, and in it, Jill Corey sings a song while sitting on the fountain from Friends. Spencer Tracy did a movie called The Last Hurrah, where he plays an aging politician who decides he's going to have one last campaign, and so he runs again, and you do see him walk right by the fountain in the movie. So I saw an article from MeTV, and MeTV seemed to imply, and I don't think intentionally, but they seem to imply that the Monkees were the first people to use that fountain in anything, which is not true. The Monkees did have the fountain appear in multiple scenes on their TV show. They also did a music video for the song Gonna Buy Me a Dog, where they ride their bikes around the fountain. Those are the monkeys on the bike. They weren't actual monkeys. They were real dogs, but there was also a Waltons website I found that was just great and reminded me, by the way, of how much I love the Waltons. I have not watched the Waltons in years, and just seeing a small clip from it just really brought it back. So there's an episode where I guess Pa Walton has to go to Richmond, Virginia. So to represent the big city, they use that area of the Warner Brothers Columbia Ranch. And you see him look out the window, and he sees this woman, an extra, sit down, and her dress goes into the fountain. Then she gets up and kind of shakes it out. At the first time, because the camera's not focusing on her, I thought she was picking out a wedgie, but she was not. It also appeared in an episode of Bewitched. The plot for this had to do with turning a person into a frog, and the person in question was played by John Fielder. So if you know Piglet from Winnie the Pooh, that was John Fielder's most famous role. And when he talked, he always had a voice that sounded like that. And so he had this whole sequence where he kind of leapfrogged into the fountain, which is pretty funny. A lot of people thought that the fountain was the Cherry Hill fountain because people went out to New York City and they expected to find the fountain there. And this fountain looked close enough to it, so much so that they have a disclaimer on like the New York City Parks website or whatever that's like, look, it's not the Friends fountain. But that doesn't stop people from taking pictures where they pretend to be friends at the Friends fountain. The actual Friends fountain is still around. So they demolished the ranch. At least they were in the process of doing it in that Adam the Woo video I saw 2 months ago. I'm assuming it's all gone now, but they lifted the fountain up. They went to great lengths to ensure that what essentially is a prop from a movie set could be saved and continue to be used for decades and decades to come. They lifted it up out of the ground and they moved it over from the ranch to the actual Warner Brothers studios, which is a separate property. And always the Warner Brothers studio, you could take a tour and see everything, whereas the ranch was private. You know, you could not go there unless you were a star of some kind. They do a lot of different stuff at the Warner Brothers studio tour, including taking you to Central Perk, which I've been to, and you sit on the Friends couch, or at least a replica of it, I'm hoping. I mean, I would assume the amount of butts from all of my butt and all the other butts sitting on that couch, that's the real one. Can't let that. I mean, Smithsonian's not letting people put their butt on Archie Bunker's chair. They also, at the Warner Brothers studio, they have like a little Hogwarts type thing where they do a hat sorting ceremony, or at least they did the last time I was there. So it makes sense. Friends is one of their biggest properties ever for Warner Brothers, so it makes sense that they would want the fountain there. So now you can get the picture of you on a fiberglass couch that they have seated right in front of the fountain. I really like that. I think that's good. It's the best tour, by the way, of all of those. There's some fun stuff you can see at the other tours, but if you go out to California, that's the one I recommend. I do have a small memento of Friends. I'll be right back. I'm going to get there. All right. By the way, if you enjoy these videos, make sure and be like the Fonz from that other great show, Happy Days, and give it a thumbs up. And while you do, go, hey, and tell everybody who didn't watch this video to sit on it. All right, I got some coasters here now. I have one Friends coaster, which is the Friends apartment. I think at one point in time, I had 4 Friends coasters. But here's the one of the apartment. It's like a drawing. Looks like it should be Where's Waldo? Like we should be expecting Waldo to be there. I couldn't find the other one, but I did find one from Galaxy's Edge. Probably that way. Look, 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 look. I found this one from a restaurant. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this place, Quaker Steak and Lube. I don't know if any of them are left anymore, but there was a short period of time where they were a pretty big wing chain. I remember their wings being pretty good, but they didn't last. They also had cars that were on the ceiling like they did at Planet Hollywood, and that to me is an uncomfortable dining experience, because I'm the type to sit there and assume this is going to be the day that the cables give up, and then and I'm going to die in a weird freak accident eating wings. This one's from Disneyland. If you have a copy of my book, Bibbidi Boozidi Book, this is right on the cover. So if you look at the cover, you can see just a little bit of this coaster. Look at that. One of the greatest shows ever, by the way. I love this, man. I wish the Cheers bar was in 100 different productions. I wish Spencer Tracy walked by the Cheers bar at one point in time. Also, this one, this is the NBC Sports Grill. I don't know if this is still there because they change stuff on Universal City Walk all the time. But when I went there, I guess about a year and a half, 2 years ago, this was a place where I heard they had good wings. And so I went there and guess what? They had good wings. So if they're still there, I highly recommend it. Well, I don't know if I highly. It's a theme park restaurant. I moderately recommend it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope you come back tomorrow at 2 o'clock because I'm going to have a brand new adventure for you, which should be very exciting. And right now, I am going to put a video specifically for you guys because I figure you guys are sitcom lovers. I'm going to put a video about Gilligan's Island right here. And so that's the one I choose. Google is going to decide, YouTube, Google, all of them, decide what video goes over here. And so that's what they think is best for you. This is what I think is best for you. So you choose and then come back here tomorrow at 2 o'clock and I'll see you for a brand new adventure.